Time is one of the most valuable things we have. These beautiful watches not only tell you the time, but they also make your outfit look more stylish. When Thomas Perkins, the winner of the 2006 Richard Mille-sponsored Perini Navy Cup, said on U.S. television that he could have bought a tray of Rolex watches for the same price as a Richard Mille watch, it made me wonder why Richard Mille watches are so expensive. In today's videos, we will cover the top 5 reasons consumers should expect to pay a hefty price for a Richard Mille watch. But before we start discussing in detail, please subscribe our channel and also press the bell icon as well. Number 1. Watchmaking and Design. The unusual design of a Richard Mille watch makes it easy to recognize. It looks like a cross between a Formula One race car, which is a big part of the brand, and a futuristic watch. The design is bold and unique without trying to hide it. Also, they are all made to be very light and ergonomic, which means they are as comfortable as possible. A lot of people don't realize how hard it is to make Richard Mille's famous tonneau-shaped case, which has become one of the brand's most recognizable features. The watch case that looks like a sandwich is very expensive and hard to make. It is made up of 3 curved parts, the front and back bezels and the middle section. Because there are no flat surfaces, it is very hard to machine. Also, the curved surfaces fit together so well that moisture or dust can't get in by even 1/100th of a millimeter. If you know anything about how machines work, this should really impress you. When it comes to the design, everything has been thought of to make it as comfortable and beautiful as possible. All of it is finished by hand and is very technical. Just the dial or lack of dial is a mind-bogglingly complicated part. Richard Mille is also known for its skeletonized dials, which are made by carefully layering sapphire crystals and other parts to make them easy to read and show off their complicated movements. Number 2. Avant-garde materials. The design isn't the only thing that makes Richard Mille watches so futuristic and groundbreaking. It's also the high-tech cutting-edge materials. They are using things that have never been used in the watch business before. Most of the time, you can only find these cutting-edge materials in Formula One cars, the aerospace industry, and racing yachts. They aren't just cutting-edge materials for making watches. Even the most high-tech industries use them. Mille spent a lot of time and money on research and development to figure out how to use these materials in his watches. These metals and materials are made up of new parts that watchmakers have never seen before. Even though it's cool to say, these watches are made of special materials, this is actually done for a reason. It will be clear right away when you try on a Richard Mille. Even though Richard Mille watches are big, they are very light. In general, they weigh only 40 grams. It's like having a credit card on your wrist. Also, these materials add a huge amount of strength and durability to the mix. Altogether, it has a very solid build, a very light feel, and a beautiful patina. It's really mind-blowing, and the complexity of the architecture of the case, which we talked about above, makes it even more so. If you want to know what kinds of materials, the list is long. Carbon nanotubes that have been hardened with ceramic, gold that has been fused with carbon and quartz, silicon nitride, and a lot of other materials that alchemists dream about. By the way these materials are made makes the patterns and the layers of carbon random. This means that no 2 cases are the same. Even though each Richard Mille watch is very rare, they are not all the same. Instead, they're all unique. Number 3. Complicated movements. Not only does Richard Mille use high-tech materials to make the case, but also the movement. The Richard Mille team took a different approach to horology than we're used to seeing in the classical world of Genève. Most of the parts of the movement are made of a special alloy made of about 90% grade 5 titanium, 6% aluminum, and 4% vanadium. Again, these are materials that are only used in very high-tech fields, so they have never been used to make watches. As to the base plates and coatings, they are usually made of PVD or titillate, both of which are very strong and durable. It takes a long time to come up with this kind of new idea. Richard Mille has some amazing micro-engineers. The finishing techniques are just as beautiful as the materials. This includes anglage and hand polishing, satin finishes on bridges, burnished pivots, wheels, and other parts. The execution is perfect, and the result is a sporty, technical movement that is a real treat to watch. Richard Mille was one of the first people to figure out that modern watchmakers want to see how a watch works. After all, the movement of a mechanical watch is likely the most interesting part. Also, Richard Mille is all about tourbillons, which are cages that spin and can only be broken out of with a lot of cleverness. With a full redesign and high-tech materials, they make perfect tourbillons. Their tourbillons show how much they care about making haute horology better. Everything about a Richard Mille watch's movement is easy to understand and made for high reliability. With Richard Mille, you don't just get unwavering accuracy, precision, and dependability. You also get beauty and sophistication. If you need a mechanical watch for the end of the world, you should get a Richard Mille. Number 4. Scarcity. You probably already know that making a Richard Mille watch is hard and takes a lot of time. The work is mostly done by hand. But that's not the only thing that makes Richard Mille watches hard to find. It also comes down to who gets to do what. If you make a lot of watches every year, it loses some of its mystery. Richard Mille makes less than 5,000 watches a year because of this. Even though that's not a small number, especially for a brand that's still so new, it keeps things very exclusive. Every year, the amount of demand is much higher than the amount of supply, which makes people want more. Many models are also made in limited quantities, which makes this effect even stronger. Prices that are high on the secondary market and at auction show how valuable this brand is. Overall, scarcity is a great way to sell something, which brings us to our last point about why Richard Mille watches are so expensive. Number 5. Marketing and status symbol. Richard Mille watches are only worn by the most wealthy and powerful people. In the watch business, it has become the ultimate sign of wealth. People who wear Richard Milles got the name billionaire's handshake because of this. Even though the watches are great in terms of design, engineering, new ideas, etc., Richard Mille's marketing has been a stroke of genius. It may be the biggest reason why they can charge such high prices. They've done a great job of making it feel like a very exclusive club. If you have a Richard Mille, you know that only people with money like you can buy one. When you wear a Richard Mille, it shows that you spent a lot of money on it. It has become the most prestigious watch brand, right up there with Patek Philippe. Even more so because people know that you spent a lot of money on a Richard Mille, and that only the richest and most famous people wear them. Also, Richard Milles are much better known than some of Patek's rarer and more expensive models. Simply put, you are paying a huge amount more because Richard Mille is a well-known brand. Even if you don't like the watches, the fact that someone can spend that much money on one is impressive. This is a hard way to run a business, but Richard Mille did a great job of making it work. In a few words, Richard Mille watches are so expensive because they are made by experts and have a good name and image. So that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed the video. Tell us about your favorite Richard Mille quotes in the comments section below. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell button to get all the latest updates.